The challenge is actually simple but colossal. How can we make sure that we cut greenhouse gas emissions fast enough so that we can stay within the limits that we have set for ourselves in the Paris Agreement of 2015, that is, to stay below 2 degrees Celsius worldwide. That's a colossal challenge because it will require that the world goes to net zero by 2050 or shortly thereafter. Right now, we have not even peaked. And so we need to start descending quickly. That is a matter that has to happen across the world. Europe is only responsible for 7% of emissions. That share is declining further. If there is one global problem in the world, it is climate change. And it is the responsibility of all, developed and developing, which makes it a global problem, but also one that is extremely hard to tackle, because the climate is the possession of everyone and therefore also of no one. If there is one area in international politics where the EU still plays a really leading role and is recognized as such, it is in the fight against climate change. The reason is that we were there from 1992 when we set up the UN Convention. We have not left the Kyoto Protocol or the Paris Agreement. We've always been there. And we have always led the movement for climate change by setting ambitious targets, which we have delivered on. So Europe is indeed a trendsetter for climate change. Moreover, we are still the biggest development aid donor of the world, and a larger and larger share of that development aid is now going to climate mitigation or other environmental aims. Furthermore, we have a big internal market. Our share in the world economy is shrinking, but we still have an important internal market. And we are conditioning more and more the access to our internal market on environmental standards and environmental concerns. The carbon border adjustment mechanism is another new example of that leading role through the use of the internal market. So Europe can indeed play a trailblazing role in the fight against climate change. We have done so, and hopefully others will follow our example, because as I said, it is a global problem and Europe is not going to save the planet on its own. And clearly the young generation has an important role to play for two reasons. First of all, because they are directly affected. The decisions that are taken now will have an impact on the sort of world they will be living in for the next decades. That even goes for the people who are not yet born. At the same time, the youngsters of today will be the leaders of tomorrow. And so they will also be shaping that sort of world. I think it's important that youngsters engage in this debate on climate, but do so in a sort of responsible way. We can only win the debate on climate if we convince the majority of the people. And for that, the climate subject has got to be mainstreamed. You're not going to win the battle with 5% of the electorate. You need to have a broad platform on which the climate action can be taken forward. And youngsters need to talk not only to their colleagues of youngsters in the rest of the world, but also the other generations, to tell them, to bring a narrative that, one, it is necessary, and two, together it is feasible. Clearly there is an issue of intergenerational equity, which again we have to stress almost daily, because the current politics in general, but the current politics in particular, have a very strong emphasis on the here and the now. climate change suffers from the tragedy of the horizon. For an active climate change policy, you need to think in terms of 20, 30, 40 years forward. Most political systems have a cycle of 4 years, 5 years. There are some sectors where long-term thinking is more customary, like energy policy, but there it's 20 years maximum. But most other domains of policy have a horizon of less than 10 years. And so we need to understand better the non-youth generation, need to understand better that the actions we undertake now have a lasting impact for the rest of this century. And the reason is simple, it's a chemical reason. Apart from methane, whose molecules stay in the atmosphere for maximum 15 years, CO2 molecules, nitrous oxide molecules, F-gas molecules stay in the atmosphere for tens, if not hundreds of years. So when we emit gases now, they will stay there for a long time. And if we don't find the technological solutions, the generations to come will suffer from our behavior of today.